city manager, why, in your opinion, is the staff at the Lake Worth Utilities Company not capable of producing this audit themselves?
City manager?
The one, time commitment, but two, the expertise in the staffing. I know we have engineers that design components. We have people who produce, distribute, and maintain systems, but I don't really have financial staff in any of the utility departments to that capability that would be able to take the time to actually do this. And usually this is something you would hire a consultant to do.
Sure, that's the financial end of it, but how about just the electrical usage end? Why could our staff not determine our electrical usage needs?
Well, because they're comparing it against, for example, in the case of the solar. And I learned this with actually the LED lights, to spec out and say, here's the type of unit that we should actually be installing based on the latest technology, its life cycle, what it produces, the way it's configured with string transformers and all the various things that they're going to guarantee. My staff just doesn't have that capability. I don't have the capability to understand that until we got into the discussion. LED lights, same thing. You know, we had the bright idea, excuse the pun, a few years ago to let's go and put in LED street lights because it's obvious in that one that there's energy savings. It became evident very quickly when vendors and everybody else started coming out of the woodwork that LED lighting is as much about finding vendors and producers that the light amounts that it produces to meet the FDOT standards over years doesn't fall off, that there's guarantees and that it performs to those standards that's set by a whole bunch of engineers in another place. It wasn't just as easy as going in and selecting something off the shelf. This is still very, I won't say new, but it's an evolving technology, and there's nobody in the organization that has those kinds of capabilities.
If we as a city do not have a staff that is at least capable of reviewing these recommendations, then is it a prudent decision to have the company that would be implementing these elements also doing the audit for the project?
Distinguish between the person coming in and saying, here's the latest technologies and guarantees and the type of widget to buy, and here's the reasons why, to saying that staff's not capable then of reviewing and looking at the data that's produced to say, well, we know what we have now does this, and we see that the vendors and the product we're going to potentially buy does this. You can easily see that, and I think that's, Larry, we spent a tremendous amount of time going through those numbers and looking at that. So because we don't have the expertise to say this is the type of Prius we need to buy, doesn't mean we can build a Prius. Does that make sense?
Well, even
it does make sense what you're saying, but again, this an audit isn't building the Prius, and an audit would be equivalent to conceptualizing the Prius.
I just know that we hire experts to design things for us because I don't have in-house capabilities. And it ranges from roads to drainage systems to water systems. But we know that the end product is something we can rely on and we want to do because it meets certain standards or goals for what y'all want to do. That doesn't mean we're not capable of understanding what's being presented to us and guaranteed to us as a good project or not a good project. We don't design, we don't do a lot of things. We don't build roads. We don't do a lot of that in-house because people have expertise in those fields. They have economies of scale. Siemens, as an example, has a tremendous amount of capabilities and resources at their disposal that we would never have to be able to pull this together. But make no mistake, they still have to meet the threshold to make you and this body understand what they're proposing, just as they do with staff in the development of it. Same thing with the attorney's office. You know, we hire a tremendous firm that has many capabilities and resources well beyond just one attorney. You know, they're like a toolbox, and you pull out whatever tool you need for the problem. I couldn't do that internally, and I wouldn't recommend it. It would be something, I wouldn't want the abilities of Siemens on my staff, because that means we would have a tremendously bloated staff. So it's truly how we operate in a lot of different areas. I don't know if that's helpful, but at the end of the day, you need to understand completely and be comfortable with their presentation on all fronts, from the financial, from what they're saying about their guaranteeing on the actual products that they would be installing, to how this works. And just as we as staff have come to understand it better, but we're not the originators of it. And I think the Department of Energy knew that when they created